my birth to show up. Shows up about 7:10, 7:11 Pacific time. I wanted to come on here, and as you can tell by the title, just kind of give my thoughts on something that I'm sure a lot of people are wondering about, themselves. And that is, should Cody Rhodes be the one to beat Roman Reigns? Mostly for the WWE Championship or the undisputed WWE Championship, Universal Championship, whatever you want to call it. Should he be the one that beats Roman basically for the undisputed championship? And that is a good question, because the other question that gets brought along with it is, what about The Rock? Because one thing a lot of people are looking at as, the potential, catalyst for the match between Rock and Roman at WrestleMania, because even Rock has gone on record and saying, hey, I want to do this. The catalyst, if you will, is, not just, family, heritage or family supremacy or whatever, as well as to basically cement Roman as the new, legitimately as the new provider of the family, the new officially head tribal chief of the family. And, one of the catalysts of doing that is to have him put his undisputed title, or at least one of them, if they're still going to go with the undisputed thing, unified deal, whatever, on the line against his cousin, against The Rock, to prove he is not just, the tribal chief and the new head of the table, but even someone like Rock is going to have no choice but to acknowledge him and respect him, out of the fact that maybe he wants to go out and prove he's better than Rock by challenging him to a match, or however they get to that point, and putting the title on the line. But again, the question is, where does this leave Rock if Cody is the one to beat Roman? Well, again, like I said, people are hoping that the match between Roman and Rock is for the championship, unified, undisputed, individual, whatever the case may be. But, there are a lot of people, and even those that I follow here on YouTube, like Alex, formerly the Lex Man, would agree that you don't necessarily need the championship, put on the line between Rock and Roman to sell out SoFi Stadium. You don't need that. All you need is just Rock versus Roman, and basically the battle of, and basically make it a family feud where it's battle of supremacy. Like, who is the true family provider? Who is the true head of the table? Who is the true, tribal chief? The Samoan, the true Samoan legend, if you will, in the family. And, when you just have something based on, family itself, we've seen this in the past, no matter what promotion you've seen it in. When you've had family put into a situation to where dominance, respect, and all that is on the line, it gets people talking, it gets their attention. And if there is a championship on the line, that championship becomes secondary, because the most important investment to them is who is better. I mean, let's take a look at Brett and Owen. Brett and Owen, when they started their feud, did not need any championships. The championship only added to it later on. And that's the thing, too, that the WWE Championship was added later on when Brett won it at WrestleMania. But even with that said, even with that said, and it's probably going to get copyrighted now due to that person playing the music loud. But anyway, with that said, like I said, when Owen and Brett began their feud, they didn't need the championship. They just needed each other. They just needed a good story that got people invested, and they did. And like I said, the championship just added to it later on. I mean, because you knew eventually if Brett was going to get it back, that these two would go at it for the title, and they did. They did it in a classic match, a classic steel cage match at SummerSlam 94. But again, you knew the title didn't need to be on the line or inserted right away to, put this feud over as a must-see, talked-about feud. And on top of that, Owen beating Brett cleanly in the opening match at WrestleMania 10 to basically elevate himself to that next level. Brett basically putting his brother over, if you will. Guess what? No championship was on the line. It was only about pride and who was on that night the better wrestler, who was the better Hart brother. So for Roman and Rock, yeah, the championship would be an added bonus. There's no doubt. Make it more significant and huge. But if it's going to be about family pride, if it's going to be about Roman cementing his legacy as, hey, I'm the new guy in town. I'm the new Samoan legend in our family. I'm the true provider. I'm the true Samoan, warrior and all that over Rock. And it's Rock's time to say, hey, I'm passing the torch on to you, not just not just as, as far as his business is concerned, but I'm passing the torch on to you as far as our family is concerned. For Rock to do that, again, you don't need to have the championship on the line at Mania to make it happen. All you have to do is just have a story about pride and who is basically the better athlete. That's about it. So for Cody, for him to come back, and in the promo he basically did on Monday, work shoot, whatever you want to call it, basically kind of unscripted, but not really, whatever the case may be. Kind of similar to what he's done in AEW, where it's like, okay, you got bullet points, go out and hit those bullet points and say whatever you got to say to get people talking and get people, invested. For someone like Cody, him being put in a position story-wise to try to be the one that wins the championship that eluded his father, that his father thought he had won back in the late 70s, and then he found out that he didn't, because even at that time, and they've alluded to this, that, it was very rare where the referees, the ring announcers, and even the commentators for matches would acknowledge that the championship could only change hands on pinfall and submission, not count out of disqualification. So for Cody to have that kind of that motivation of, hey, I want to do the one thing, I want to win the one thing that my father had taken away from him, that my father had a brief taste of, before the whole acknowledgement of, oh, you didn't really win, the title. You won the match, but you didn't win the title kind of deal. For him to have that kind of motivation, for returning and everything, it's a great story. It's a great story to work with, especially if you have Cody, with the kind of creative freedom he has. Kind of like, because a lot of people say he has creative freedom similar to like an AJ Styles and a Roman Reigns and all that. Like, he's going to have a little, excuse me, he's going to have as much creative freedom as he's going to get. And that's a good thing. That's a great thing in the end, to have a little bit of creative freedom, but not much, to where it's like, if you go a little too far, they're going to have to rein you in, coin a phrase, they're going to have to rein you in and pull you in and say, hey, you went a little too far, we're going to have to take over for a bit before we let you, have that freedom back. For him to be in that category, if you will, to where he has a little leeway to be able to say what he wants, do what he wants, and even have the kind of story arcs for his character and those involved that he wants, is in a way kind of like a company like WWE's, for example, more specifically, is a company's, kind of seal of approval of, hey, we trust you to get the job done. We trust you to get people, to pay attention to the product, to tune in every week, whether it's Monday or Friday, and get them not only watching our product, but talking about what you're involved in. So for Cody to have this story arc, which it looks like they're going to go full throttle with, not just, okay, we went as far as we can, and now we're just going to, fade away from it and do something else. For them to basically have this be a point for Cody to come back to, even if he is feuding for other, superstars, for championships and everything, for them to probably have this story. And again, if Cody is behind it, like Edge is behind his at times, if not most times, for him to have the story arc to where he can come back to it every now and then or every once in a while and say, hey, my goal is to still be the champ and still get that belt around my waist and spiritually give it to my father. That is a heck of a storyline to ride with, and the possibilities are indeed endless, as I think Alex once said. They are indeed endless of what you can do, with Cody in this position. So, should he be the one to beat Roman Reigns for the title? Well, if they basically procured Roman at that level now to where he doesn't necessarily need the title, so to have a main event closeout match, passing of the torch kind of match with his cousin at WrestleMania next year, then yeah, I think Cody should be the one. I think Cody should be the one that beats him for the title. Whether it's for the Unified Championship, whether it's for the individual WWE Championship, Universal Championship, it doesn't matter. I think Cody should be the one that beats him. Because if you've elevated Roman now enough to the point that he doesn't need those titles anymore, and that his elevation to the status that he's at right now is more than enough to say, hey, Rock versus Roman is a main event without a main event, no matter what, despite whether it's for a championship or it isn't. If you've got him to that point, then yeah, I don't think there's a problem for Cody to be the one that beats Roman. Because you could actually use Roman losing the championship to Cody as more motivation for him to prove he is the tribal chief. He is the head of the table. He is the be-all, end-all, and that he's going to prove it by challenging his cousin to a match at WrestleMania for family supremacy of who is the better, head of the table, who is the true tribal chief and all that. So honestly, yeah, I think Cody should be the one. Because the kid should be there. Sorry for the lag. There. Got a bit of allergies. It's that time of year. But like I said, I think honestly Cody should be the one because let's look at this. Let's look at it this way. Like I said, when Owen and Brett started their feud, neither one of them was champion. Neither one of them was the WWE champion. Brett became champion at the end of WrestleMania 10. And when he continued his feud on and off with his brother, during that year, and it culminated with them facing each other in that Steel Cage Classic at SummerSlam, all the championship did was just add a little bit of a spice to the feud that was already hot. They already got people's attention. They already got people talking. All it did was give the feud the extra momentum, if you will, the extra elevation, if you will, that people said it needed, but it didn't really. It just gave it that extra oomph, if you catch my drift. But even before it, the feud, like I mentioned earlier, it sold people on itself. It sold people on itself without a championship involved. So to me, you could do the same thing with Roman and Rock. You could do the same thing with them. You don't need to have the championship on the line because on its own, Tribal Chief Head of Table Roman Reigns versus WWE legend, future Hall of Famer, People's Champion The Rock in the main event of WrestleMania 39 in SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California next year sells itself. It sells the stadium out itself, championship or not. So, in my opinion, should Cody be the one that beats him? Absolutely, because if you think about it, Cody holding that championship not only sends a message to any other current AEW star, man or woman, that's made a name for themselves in that company, that are thinking and considering, when the contract is up, about probably jumping ship over to WWE and trying things out there. Not only does it send a positive message to them that, hey, we're willing to give you the opportunity that Tony Khan never did, by making you a top guy, a top guy, a gal here. But it shows to them that WWE is still everything people say it is, or still believe it to be, and that is, it is the promised land. It is the be-all, end-all, to really truly prove yourself in this industry, whether you look at it as a wrestling company or sports entertainment company or whatever. It is the be-all, end-all. And for them to put the championship on Cody sends that positive message of, hey, we are the place to be. Like, yeah, you are making a mark for yourself where you are right now, and that's great. But if you come here, you will make an even bigger splash than you did there. And we've gotten the proof here right in front of you by taking one of your very own, someone that was a founder of your company, someone that was a VP exec, if you will, of your company, and we put the title on him when a certain Mr. Tony Khan wouldn't do it. So to me, it sends a positive message. It also, in the long run, too, shows that Vince McMahon is willing to let bygones be bygones. He's willing to basically bury the hatchet with the Rhodes by finally putting his prestigious championship, his championship that's been in his company for over 50 years, is basically the catalyst, basically the centerfold, if you will, the be-all, end-all of championships in this company. The WWE title, whether it's unified, whether it's the only title, whatever the case may be, on a Rhodes, it shows that, it basically shows how far he's come before he decides to step down. It really does. So to me, I'm just checking my time here, and I gotta get ready, guys. So to me, for him to put the title on Cody not only shows that he's willing to bury the hatchet with the Rhodes and be the bigger man and say, hey, I'm putting my most prestigious title on someone, or on a member of someone's family, or on a member of a family whose figurehead at one point tried to compete against me. But it also sends a message, like I said, to those in AEW that might be considering jumping over, that made names for themselves, that, hey, if you can make it there, you can make a big splash there. You come here, we'll make sure you make an even bigger splash. And again, as far as Roman and Rock goes, they don't need the championship per se to really sell out SoFi Stadium on their one-on-one encounter, the passing of the torch, if you will, between the two at WrestleMania. They really don't. Because again, going back to Owen and Brett, did they need the title initially when they feuded? No. But it did help kind of spice things up later on. Here, though, with Rock and Roman, with Rock and Roman, you don't have to worry about that, because they're in a position, Roman right now and Rock, Roman and especially Rock right now, both at a position, as I gather my stuff together here, they're both at a position right now to where they don't need any championships, to like boost that matchup whatsoever. They don't. They don't need any championship to help boost that matchup whatsoever. They don't. All they need is themselves, and basically a storyline of who is the tribal chief, who is the true, Samoan legend, head of the table in the family. And there you go. That's all you have to do. Heck, if you want to incorporate Rock going into the Hall of Fame, next year, which is, likely to happen, as a true catalyst, as a true way of really, pushing Roman, to the point of wanting to prove he's better than his cousin, you could do that too, and it would work. It would sell. So to me, honestly, again, getting back on topic here, should Roman be the one that beats, not Roman, but should Cody be the one that beats Roman Reigns? Yeah, I think so. I think, honestly, he should be the one that beats, Roman Reigns, because again, you can keep Roman as champion all you want. You can keep him as champion all you want. And even up till WrestleMania next year, and have it on the line, that's great. But then where do you go from there after he beats Rock and retains his title? Where do you go from there? That is the question. That is a major question that needs, that would need to be answered. I mean, are you going to wait for a Braun Breaker to get to a point next year where he beats Roman? I don't think so. So honestly, I think right now, the best solution is for Cody to be the one. For Cody to be the one that wins the championship over Roman. And basically then, you have him keep the title for a while, and, just go from there. Hold on for a sec while I cross here. Okay, you have him beat Roman, and then you go from there. And if you want him to face Roman in a rematch where Roman loses again, that's fine. And then you can give Roman motivation and the fact that he needs to still prove himself. Maybe you'll have Alpha and Sika come back out and say, hey, you failed. Oh, no, yeah, is it Alpha and Sika? Yeah. You have Alpha and Sika come out and say, hey, you failed, you're no longer our tribal chief. Then you have Roman basically say, you know what, I'm not gonna give up that title, and says, how do I, and maybe you do a storyline where you say, well, how do I prove myself to you? How do I prove that I'm still the tribal chief, I'm still head of the table? And then you could have them say, well, the only way you could do that is to challenge your cousin, The Rock. Face your cousin at WrestleMania and go from there. And that's it. Well, that's it. And just go with that. That's what's doing it. So to me, in closing, like I said, I think Cody should be the one that beats Roman. He should. Because like I said, Roman doesn't need the championship necessarily for his match against The Rock. He doesn't. He doesn't necessarily need it. I mean, again, it does make things feel a little bit more bigger, but they're both at a point right now, ladies and gentlemen, to where once their match is announced and it happens, that championship is secondary. And that's a fact. So I do believe Cody should be the one that wins. He should beat Roman in a rematch. And then you have Cody go on and feud with maybe Kevin Owens, maybe Sami Zayn, believe it or not. Reward them. I mean, if you will. Like I said, have them, feud. Have them feud with Cody for the title. Maybe have Seth Rollins feud with Cody for the title. That. Maybe Drew. And there you go. There you go. So, yeah. The one that beats Roman because, again, when you look at how The Rock and Roman's match is on paper, even without the title, it sells itself. And I don't think anybody can ask more than that. But what do you guys think? What are your thoughts, on Roman, what are your thoughts on Roman competing for the... What are your guys' thoughts on Cody being the one that beats Roman? Do you think it really hurts Roman, or do you think basically, Roman's match with The Rock is doesn't need the title to be to really help build it? What are your thoughts? Let me know down below. Comment if you like. I'd love to hear from each and every one of you guys. And check me out at VENMO at Brian-Wilmer-2 and at Cash App and VW versus 98. But again, guys, let me know what your thoughts are overall on the idea of Roman and Rock not needing the title, and that Cody being the one that beats Roman for the title. Because again, when you look at the status of both the Rock and Roman right now, yeah, I don't think their match at WrestleMania next year needs a championship to really not only help it main event WrestleMania and close out WrestleMania Night 2, but I think Cody needs to be the champion going into Mania more than anything in catch my drift. And my bus is here, guys, and I'll talk to y'all later.